Tracy here. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I made this crazy quilt shaker card using the Love from Lizi So Kind special edition card kit. Let's go ahead and jump in. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in, and all I'm doing here is I'm drawing shapes, and I'm just kind of drawing them off of each other. Not in any particular order or anything. If you've ever seen a crazy quilt, that's kind of how they look. And then I'm just adding numbers to them. I'm going to cut this up like a puzzle. And the reason that I added numbers is so I know where to add them back, because I'm going to use these as a template for my colored papers. So just kind of putting it roughly back together here while I get these cut out so I get them all in the right spot. And we'll make our crazy quilt. So all I'm going to do is trace the shapes onto the pattern papers and cut them out. And so while I do that, this actually took a lot longer than I'm showing here. I do have this sped up quite a bit because you can only watch someone cut stuff up so much. So just cutting the pieces and just kind of looking at the papers and decide, try not to have two colors right next to each other. So I love crazy quilts. They're my favorite kind. And what's neat about them is they're just about anything goes. A lot of times, at least when I was growing up, there would be a lot of velvet squares or shapes on there, and satin shapes and tapestry shapes and just everything, and tons of colors and lace and ribbon and buttons and embroidery, just lots and lots of fun. And I've made one time, and they actually are not as easy as they look. So there's that. So I'm just continuing to draw around that shape and then cut them out. Super simple, but a little time consuming. And I wanted to make this 5x7 so I could make the most out of these pattern papers that I love so much. I just love this kit. This is a special edition, and I did an unboxing of it yesterday and made a quick little card, and then I'm just making you a second card here as promised. And so now I'm just going to put all the pieces back together on a little bit darker of a piece of paper, so that way if there are any little spaces in there, because it could happen, nobody's perfect, it's not going to matter too much. So I'm just gluing in the pieces kind of by number, best I can. And if there's any hanging out, I'm not worried about it because I'm going to be trimming this down to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. So it's easy to pretty easy to get back together once you've got all your pieces cut out. So now I'm just trimming it down, and we're ready to go. So what I'm going to do next, and I have to apologize in advance for my camera. I don't know what happened to it, but it went crazy. I'm creating faux stitching. So here I'm doing a blanket stitch. So I'm just making dots and lines. And I'm going to do several different types of stitches here. You could actually sew this if you wanted to, if you're so inclined to sew it on your machine sew. So if I say sew one more time. So there I've got my blanket stitch, and then I'm going to grab my red Posca pen, and I think I'm going to do a blanket stitch here too, just with a different color thread. And so the blanket stitch is super easy to draw. Just make a dot and then make a line after it. And let's see, on the red I want to do yellow, so I think I'm going to do X stitches here, just as if this were embroidered. And I will stitch all around each one of the patches. Super easy. And kind of fun too to do a bunch of different kinds of stitches. Let's see here. Let's do a blue over here, I think. And what I'm doing here now is just a faux chain stitch. And here's where my camera says, I'm a little confused on what you want me to do, and keeps changing colors on me. So sorry about that. So I'm just making basically little loop-de-loops to kind of mimic a chain stitch. I think it's called a chain stitch. that I recall. There's usually a stitch down the center of them too, but I'm not going to draw those in. I'm just going to leave it as chains. So we'll get some more drawn on here. I mean, this is the basic work of the card, is making the stitches. And I'm going to do another blanket stitch here on this one. I got it nice and close now so you can see how I'm doing that. And listen, I'm not by any means trying to be perfect here. This is not the point of a crazy quilt. A crazy quilt should be crazy. Let's see, let's do some, maybe I'm just going to do some feather stitches here. Yep, just some regular feather stitches. And let's see, what do we have here? And we have crazy lights. I've got my white Posca pen, and here I'm just doing a running stitch. Can't hardly see it, but it's there. And let's see, what are we going to do here? Let's do some more chain stitches here and some yellow finger quotes embroidery floss. So much fun. So you might say to yourself, this is a lot of work for, a single card. But listen, if you have a sewing friend or you are a sewing friend, this is going to be the neatest card to get, especially for somebody who loves crazy quilts. All right, let's do a little running stitch down here along this one. And that's just basically dashes. Let's see, what more do we have? All right, we'll do some more blanket stitching here on this red. Super easy. Let's see, what color do we want on that one? It's hard to get a color to show up on that. We'll do a little chain stitching in red on that. That should show up pretty good. Might be kind of fun to embroider this by hand, but no, try poking holes in paper. It's painful. Especially if you're like me. Thimbles are made for normal people hands, and I have big hands, so thimbles never fit me right. There we go. We're all stitched up and ready to go. Now we're just going to go ahead and make our shaker window. So this is a piece of the ephemera from the kit, the pop out from the decoupage pages. And I'm going to just take some double-sided tape here and stick it along all four sides and then stick it to that piece of acetate. And I think that's some leftover from packaging or something. So it's a rather more of a thinner piece of acetate. And you can see my one of my sentiments, sewing mends the soul, but it ends up that it's a little bit too big for this frame. So we're not going to be using it. We'll go ahead and get this stuck down to the acetate, and I'm just kind of burnishing with my fingers to make sure that double-sided tape is nice and stuck down. And I'll just pull up the backers. I made, years ago, I made a pillow. I made a heart-shaped pillow crazy quilt, and it took forever. I did lots and lots of embroidery on it. And I hated the way it turned out. I was bummed all that time. And I was like, I just don't love this. You ever make something and you just don't love it? And somebody else may or may not like it. But if you don't love it, that's it. It's not getting gifted. It's just getting kind of tossed aside. So I don't even know what happened to it. I have lots and lots of quilts. So, years ago, I was a quilt maker. And I'll tell you a sweet story while I'm getting this cut up. I used to belong to a Facebook quilt group, and, there was a message board. And you were all friends. And then one day, out of the blue, in my mail shows up this quilt. And what had happened is that the members of the group had gotten together and everyone had made a 12-inch square and then sent the squares to one of the ladies in the group, and the lady in the group quilted it all and then sent it to me, and we did this for each other. And so that was the most beautiful surprise I could ever get, was getting that quilt in the mail, hand done by people who like knew my favorite color and kind of knew a little bit about me. It was super, super neat. Sewing people are the best people, kind of like card people. All right, so I'm putting some foam tape down, and nothing's sped up here, so it feels really slow compared to the last work I was doing, but trust me, this is the pace. We'll go ahead and get some more of these stuck down. This card will be nearly finished. Super easy to do once you've got your base of your crazy quilt. That's a good way to bust up scraps too, because you know, I mean, most of the time what you see in a scrap busting situation are strips and things like that, but why not go crazy, right? So I will have the link to this special edition kit down in the description box below. It is an affiliate link. If you click the link and make a purchase, I will make a small commission at no extra cost to you, and I appreciate your support. So here's how I want this to look on this 5x7 card. So now I need to fill it up. I need to put what I want shaking inside. So I'm going to take all those little buttons from the kit and just lay them down in here. Just make sure they're all right side up. And we'll start with those for being our shaker bits, or all these little button pieces. And those all just popped right out of the paper. Lay a couple more down. Not easy to pick up. They're kind of a thin paper. Even if they're thick paper, I have trouble picking them up. But that's okay. That's why I have tweezers. Let's grab a couple more. Let's grab this little bird and this little button. And let me see. Here's another button I'll stick in there. Any more I want to put in? Let's see. And sorry, I've got Posca pen all over my hands. I'm not one to take a break and go wash my hands in between. I just keep going unless I get so much ink or paint on my hands that I'm risking getting it all over my project. I just keep on going until I can't go anymore. So I'm going to grab now just some different shaker bits. These are some little yellow iridescent ones. I'm not putting, you know, a whole bunch of shaker bits in here, but you know, I do want, you know, stuff to shake around. I want the excitement of the crazy quilt. Let's see. Let's find some blue ones to put in. So I'm just doing red, yellow, and blue. Got these little blue sequin looking ones here. Toss those in. And then let's grab some red. And I think I'm going to use my little Trinity Stamps brain. I can't think of the name of these things again. That's okay. You guys know. What are they called? Sparkle spots. I knew I'd get it eventually. Okay, I've got everything I want inside my shaker. Now I'm just going to trim off any excess that might be hanging out here of my foam tape, and then add some glue to my foam tape. Make sure I get glue all over all of it, because this foam tape doesn't have any sticky on this side. So I don't want any open spots. I don't want any of my sparkly to escape. Now notice I didn't put fine glitter in there. Nah, not needed. All right, now we're just going to lay this down over the top, this little frame. Get it on there straight, and then I'll put something heavy on it and walk away and let that dry before I mess with it any further. So I'll be gone for a few minutes, but for you it'll be just seconds. Okay, and we're back. So now it's ready to shake around, and now I've got my camera fixed. Now I've got the thank you so much, and I have cut that out of the blue paper there. And I'm going to put a bunch of glue all over my hand here. And that's going to be fun to peel off later. If you don't like doing that, go a different route. Put, double-sided sticky tape on your paper before you cut it out or something. But I'm just going to dip my sentiment, because it's a rather thin sentiment. I'm just going to dip it in there and get glue on it. And peel it off here with my tweezers and stick it down to the acetate. And I'm just going to get it, basically in the middle. I'm just going to keep pressing it down because it'll want to pop back up until the glue takes hold. Give it a good press. Make sure it's good and stuck down. Okay. Looks like it's good and stuck down. Okay, so we've got that part done. Let's just finish this off. And so I'm going to grab some of these flowery things. I don't know the names of them. I guess I better do a card base first. So I'm going to grab a piece of craft cardstock and I'm going to cut that down to 10 by 7. I cut the first one wrong, and I always do that when I'm trying to cut a 5 by 7 card base. I always cut it wrong. So I'm going to cut it to 10 by 7, and then I'm going to score it in half at 5 inches for my 5 by 7 card base. Okay, so we'll score it here. I like this thing because it has scoring and cutting. Just move my knife blade out of the way. Go to the 5-inch mark and just rub it across a couple of times. And then I'll flip it over. And I'll use that little corner, that little stop right there to get my fold as straight as I possibly can. And then I like to finger press it before I take a bone folder to it. Just to kind of make sure that it's as straight as I can possibly get it. Okay, we'll get that trimmer out of the way, and now I'll take my bone folder and make sure that it's nice and tight, because the craft cardstock likes to pop open. Okay, so we're going to just use some liquid glue to stick that down. And see, there's the kind of teal colored paper that I glued it all down to. So if any poked through, you would just see teal instead of white. But it didn't. I did a pretty good job. Surprise! Get this on here straight. Make sure it's all good and stuck down. Okay, we'll do some final embellishing and call this a day. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me and checking out my videos. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a video or I go live. Hopefully I'll be back to lives this week. I've been sick, so I haven't been doing lives because the coughing. So I've got these flower things here, and I know they're gigantic, but I don't care. I love them. I'm down to one, and it makes me kind of sad. But there's the card. I hope you do like it. If you do, please consider giving me a thumbs up. And, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. Have you ever had a crazy quilt? Have you ever made a crazy quilt? Would you want a crazy quilt? All of the things. And here's a couple of still images of the card. I hope you like it. Thanks so much for coming. All the words. Take care. Bye-bye.